I know you know this, but it always bears repeating when it comes to reading Paul's letters to the Corinthians. Perhaps more than any other congregation, the Corinthians were plagued by internal divisions that threatened not only the stability of that church, but also its witness to the world around it. What a shame it would have been if the church's witness were destroyed because of pointless internal bickering. But then again, we know a thing or two about this even today. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Monday, March 14th, 2022. For the next 3 weeks or so, we're going to read through 1 Corinthians. Some of the passages we've seen before, but reading through the letter puts it into a whole new perspective. Like nearly all of Paul's letters, this one addresses difficulties facing a particular congregation. But unlike the rest of Paul's letters, the difficulty in Corinth wasn't so much about outside agitators coming in and preaching a false gospel, as it was about members of the congregation being at odds with one another concerning matters of the authentic faith. One thing to know about Corinth is that it was an important and influential city. I strongly suspect that for Paul, the success of the Corinthian church was a matter of strategic importance. A strong Christian community there could have wide influence as a result of the many people who would come through the city on their travels around the Roman Empire. So when the Corinthian church began to show signs of fragmenting, Paul could have seen this as a threat to his enterprise of spreading the gospel throughout the Gentile world. The problem with the Corinthians was that their Greek culture proved a challenge to their witness. To be specific, there were two things that proved challenging to the growth of the church. In the first place, like a lot of Greeks, they were enamored of the Greek practice of debating. They seemed to love nothing so much as a good public argument to see who could prove himself most clever, the most intellectually nimble and dexterous. It was what Greeks referred to as wisdom. It might not even matter whether one truly believed in one's position, as long as one could establish oneself as the best at winning arguments. This may be a good thing in some areas of life, such as law and politics, but as a matter of building a faith community, the love of debating proved a hindrance. The second thing that made the gospel message a bit of a hard sell in Greek culture was the idea that God had won the victory over sin and death through the death of Jesus Christ. To the Greek mind, death was not a sign of victory, but of defeat. More than that, the idea of a God dying simply made no sense. But the Christian gospel centers on exactly this, that God became flesh in Jesus Christ, who himself willingly died for sinners. Made no sense to the Greeks. To this dual challenge, Paul replies not by attempting to out-debate the Greeks or by finessing the notion of Christ's death. Instead, he says, Christ did not send me to baptize, but to proclaim the gospel, and not with eloquent wisdom, so that the cross of Christ might not be emptied of its power. For the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discerning of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, God decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs and Greeks desire wisdom, but we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. This is genius. Paul appeals to the foolishness of God to talk about why the Christian message, far from being foolish, is the very pinnacle of wisdom. More than that, he tears down the notion that wisdom is to be found by those who win debates. His appeal to the Corinthians is clear. Let go of the game of arguing with one another and abide instead within the foolish wisdom of God. As an argument designed to undercut the very pillars of Greek thought, Paul shows his genius, his wisdom. We could stand to take a page from Paul even today. Tomorrow, Paul continues to hammer home the power of the Christian message as over against the ideal of Greek wisdom. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.